Journal from the Deep Entry 1, Day 3 of the expedition. I never imagined the ocean could feel like another planet. Out here, beyond the reach of sunlight, the world turns alien. The sea swallows sound, swallows warmth, swallows every reminder of the surface. We are adrift in a coffin of steel, pressing deeper into the Mariana Trench. The gauges say we've reached nearly 7,000 meters. The men sit in silence, not because they are tired, but because words feel useless against the weight of this place. At these depths, pressure isn't something you see, it's something you feel. It presses on your ribs, squeezes your thoughts, makes you remember every mistake you've ever made. Even our instruments seem nervous. The sonar pings return faint, distorted, as if bouncing off shifting walls rather than solid ground. Yet this silence is not empty. There's something alive here. I can't explain why, but I know it. Entry 2, Day 7. Today the sonar faltered. It stuttered, screamed with static, then went silent. For a moment the screen showed nothing at all, just a void, a hollow pit beyond our charts. When sonar fails, the ocean feels endless. Imagine reaching into a room and never touching a wall. That's what it was like. The commander told us it was a technical glitch. But we knew better. Machines don't panic. Later, a technician swore he saw the ocean floor breathe. Not shift, not tilt, but inhale. A ripple in the silt, like the seabed itself was alive. I laughed at first, but then I remembered the sonar. What if he wasn't wrong? Entry 3, Day 10. The nights here are worse than the days. Without the sun, time blurs. Clocks tick, but my body disagrees. I dream awake. I wake in dreams. Tonight we heard knocking, not mechanical clatter from the hull, but deliberate, rhythmic knocks. 3. Pause. 2. Pause. 3 again. Like someone, or something, was signaling from the outside. We searched for cracks in the steel, for trapped rocks, for shifting debris. Nothing. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. One crew member whispered, "We are not alone down here." The words clung to the air, heavy as the pressure outside. No one dared to argue. Entry 4, Day 12. We pushed deeper, nearing 9,000 meters. The trench is supposed to end at just under 11,000, but our sensors are showing fluctuations, depths that don't align with known maps. It's as if the floor keeps receding, pulling us further down. The strangest part, sonar still fails to bounce back in certain places. The signal goes out and simply disappears, as though swallowed by an abyss with no walls. I stared at the screen for nearly an hour, watching that black void eat our signal. At some point I realized my hands were shaking. One of the scientists called it the Abyssal Rift. Half joking, but none of us laughed. The name stuck. Entry 5, Day 14. Something is wrong with the lights. They flicker whenever we pass near the rift. It's subtle at first, then violent. The glow fades into darkness, and for a few seconds we are blind. During one of those blackouts, I swear I saw something moving outside. Not a fish, not the drifting glow of plankton, but a shape. Vast, gliding, impossible. Like a shadow with no source, it slipped past us and vanished. When the lights returned, nothing was there. But I know I wasn't alone in seeing it. No one spoke, but the silence screamed louder than words. Entry 6, Day 15. The crew is unraveling. Sleep brings no rest. Instead, it brings visions. One man claimed he dreamed of a city under the trench, its towers rising like black teeth from the abyss. Another said he heard voices calling his name in languages he didn't know. As for me, I no longer dream. Or perhaps I dream endlessly and cannot tell when I've woken. This journal is the only anchor I have left. The ink steadies my thoughts, though my hands tremble as I write. Entry 7, Day 17. Today we reached something unexplainable. The instruments recorded a sudden drop, a shaft plunging deeper than the trench should allow. The Mariana's floor is supposed to be mapped. But this was deeper, darker, and endless. When we sent sonar into it, nothing returned. Not static, not distortion, just silence. It was like throwing a voice into a cave and hearing no echo. A hole without walls. The commander asked for restraint. He ordered us to back away, but curiosity gnawed at us. If the trench hides something deeper, something no chart has ever shown, how could we retreat now? Entry 8, Day 18. We approached the rift. The closer we drew, the more our instruments failed. Compasses spun, pressure gauges blinked numbers that made no sense, even our watches began to disagree. Time itself felt unstable. And then it happened. Light. A faint green glow seeped through the abyss. Not like sunlight, not like bioluminescence. It shimmered like a crack in the ocean, a wound glowing from within. The submarine shuddered as if resisting. But we pressed forward. Some said we were fools, but I felt something stronger. Destiny. Final entry. Day 19. The logs may never reach the surface. Perhaps these words will drown with us, but I must record them. We hovered on the edge of the rift. The glow widened, and for the briefest moment I glimpsed something beyond. Not water, not rock, a landscape. Skies that were not skies. Shapes too massive for comprehension. One of the crew cried, "It's another world." And then everything went silent. The clocks froze. The air grew still. Even the ocean outside ceased to move. It felt as if time itself had stopped, as if the abyss had swallowed not just sound or signal, but the very flow of existence. I don't know if we've crossed, or if we're trapped in the threshold. All I know is this: we are no longer where we began. If anyone finds this journal, know this truth. The Mariana Trench is not the end of the earth. It is a door. Historical echoes and forbidden records. The first whispers. Long before modern submersibles traced the Mariana Trench, sailors spoke of a place where the sea has no bottom. Old logbooks from the 1800s tell of compasses spinning madly near Guam, of strange green glows shimmering beneath black waters. Most historians dismiss these as sailors' superstitions. Yet, when I compare them with what we saw on Day 17 of our expedition, the silent void, the impossible glow, I cannot ignore the parallels. One record in particular haunts me. The Talon, a British merchant vessel, logged in 1874. Its captain noted, "We dropped 5,000 fathoms of line. It did not strike ground. The sea below swallowed every sound as if it opened into another chamber of the world." After that entry, the ship vanished without trace. No wreckage was ever found. The words match too closely with our sonar blackouts to be coincidence. The lost submarines' governments never admit to losing vessels. But sometimes rumors slip through the cracks. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union conducted deep-sea operations in the Mariana region. Declassified fragments, redacted into near nonsense, hint at least 3 submarines lost without explanation. No debris, no bodies, not even oil slicks. A former naval technician, now an old man with trembling hands, once whispered to a journalist, "We didn't lose them to pressure. We lost them to the rift. The ocean opened and they kept falling." His interview was buried. The newspaper retracted it within days. But not before a handful of readers copied his words. The Forbidden Journal. While compiling these echoes of history, I stumbled across something darker. A journal never meant to be read. It was smuggled out of a classified research archive, its author unnamed, its pages water-stained and torn. The handwriting was frantic, as if written under duress. One line burned itself into my memory. We reached a cavern below the trench. It was not water we found, but air older than Earth itself, and in that air things moved. If true, it suggests the rift does not merely plunge into deeper ocean, but into an entirely separate realm, untouched by sunlight, untouched by human time. The journal ended abruptly with a final scrawl. "Do not follow. What waits beyond does not forgive trespassers." The survivor who shouldn't exist. The strangest testimony of all came from a man pulled from the Philippine Sea in 1969. He was found clinging to debris, delirious, half dead from exposure. When interrogated, he gave his name, his ship, and his mission. Part of a U.S. Navy dive team sent to test submersible endurance in the trench. But there was a problem. Records showed that ship had sunk in 1948, 2 decades earlier. Every crew member listed aboard had been declared dead. Yet here he was, not aged a day beyond his original service photo. When pressed, he repeated only one phrase before collapsing into silence. "We crossed the threshold." The man was never seen again. Some say he was taken into military custody. Others believe he slipped back into the rift itself, called home by whatever lies beneath. Patterns across time. It would be easy to dismiss all of this as paranoia, as the fever dreams of sailors and soldiers. But patterns emerge when the records are layered together. Sound swallowed whole, sonar signals vanishing into nothing, lights that do not belong, strange glows beneath impossible depths, time fractures, survivors appearing decades out of place, unaged. Disappearance without wreckage. Vessels lost as if erased from existence. Each element alone could be explained. Together, they draw a picture too precise to ignore. It is as though the Mariana Trench hides not a simple pit of rock and water, but a membrane, a thin skin stretched between worlds, a gateway waiting for those reckless enough to push against it. My own realization. When I first began writing this account, I wanted to believe we were explorers, that we could chart the abyss, shine light into the last shadows of our planet. But the more I compare our logs with these echoes of history, the more certain I become. We were never the first to peer into the rift. Others came before, ships, submarines, men, and they all found the same thing we did. Not emptiness, not pressure-crushed death, but something beyond. The warning that remains. If this journal ever reaches the surface, I know what skeptics will say. They will call it myth, a fabrication, a sailor's tale dressed up for modern ears, and perhaps it is safer to believe that. But I cannot silence the truth pressing against my ribs like the weight of the ocean. We are not the first to enter the rift. We will not be the last. And every time it opens, it hungers. The ocean does not give back what it takes, except sometimes. It returns them unchanged, carrying whispers from another world. If you hear those whispers, do not listen. If you see the glow, do not follow, because once you cross the threshold, you do not come back the same. Science on the edge. The language of the deep. When scientists first attempted to map the Mariana Trench with sonar, they expected to find steep walls, rocky cliffs, and a clear bottom at Challenger Deep. Instead, they found silence. Their pings, designed to echo back from the seafloor, vanished into emptiness. At first, this was blamed on equipment failure, but repeated tests returned the same result, as if the sound itself had been swallowed by an endless hollow. What kind of geological structure can erase sound? Some geologists argue it may be a vast chasm, a collapsed cavern system stretching far beneath the crust. Yet others whisper what no institution dares print, that sonar behaves this way not when striking rock, but when encountering a void, a rupture in physical space. Magnetic chaos. Compasses near the trench behave erratically. This is not unusual in some parts of the world. Earth's magnetic field is a restless force, but the fluctuations recorded here are violent, sometimes flipping north to south within seconds. physicists proposed local iron deposits beneath the crust, distorting magnetism. But deep drilling expeditions around Guam failed to confirm this. Instead, the data suggests magnetic fields behave here as though pulled by an unseen body, something not accounted for in any geological model. Theorists speculate, could the rift act as a magnetic sink, drawing field lines toward it like water draining into a whirlpool? And if so, what lies at its center strong enough to twist the invisible fabric of Earth itself? The pressure paradox. At nearly 11 kilometers deep, the pressure at the trench floor should be enough to crush steel like paper. And yet, there are anomalies. Submersibles have reported intact pockets, moments when their hull sensors recorded drops in pressure as though they had entered a bubble suspended within the crushing dark. Such voids should be impossible. Pressure is constant, dictated by depth. A drop implies space behaving unnaturally, as if depth itself had shifted. One research engineer noted in a confidential log, "It felt as though the ocean wasn't entity pushing against us anymore. It was pulling." Biological clues. Life in the Hadal zone is strange but always explicable. Snailfish, amphipods, microbial mats. But certain samples retrieved near Challenger Deep resist classification. Transparent organisms that refract light unnaturally, making them appear to shimmer in and out of visibility. Others whose DNA chains contain sequences never before observed in terrestrial biology. A team from Japan once cultured such organisms in a pressurized lab. They died instantly when exposed to surface air, but not before emitting an odd pulse, like a low-frequency vibration. The scientists described it as a heartbeat not our own. And then, for reasons never explained, all records of that experiment were classified and removed from publication. The wormhole hypothesis. Some physicists dare to link the trench to theoretical constructs. Wormholes, rips in spacetime predicted by Einstein's equations. In theory, wormholes could connect distant parts of the universe, or even parallel dimensions. But every textbook adds the same note. Such rifts would collapse instantly without exotic matter to hold them open. And yet, if there is anywhere on Earth where the rules of physics are strained, it is here. Immense gravitational pressures, magnetic chaos, unexplained voids, conditions eerily close to what wormhole equations demand. What if the Abyssal Rift is not merely geological, but cosmological? A scar in spacetime, hidden beneath the waves? Temporal distortions. Skeptics laugh at stories of time loss. And yet, pilots flying near the Bermuda Triangle have reported clocks running fast or slow, compasses spinning, radio static punctuated by ghost voices. Strange, then, that similar stories emerge from the Pacific. A Japanese fishing crew in 1983 reported losing 15 hours during a storm near the trench. Their chronometers disagreed violently, some leaping forward, others frozen. When they returned, barnacles had formed on their hull far thicker than 2 weeks at sea should allow. If pressure anomalies can bend physical laws, could they also distort time? Perhaps the rift does not merely open into another place, but into another when. The energy question. One of the most persistent mysteries is energy. Instruments dropped into the depths often record sudden spikes, bursts of electromagnetic radiation with no source. Some resemble earthquakes, but others pulse with uncanny regularity, almost like signals. In 2012, a U.S. research buoy recorded a repeating frequency that lasted for 7 days, pulsing every 47 seconds, then vanishing completely. Natural explanations, seafloor shifting, thermal vents were suggested, but none account for the precision of the pattern. It looked less like geology and more like intention. What science refuses to admit here lies the truth scientists whisper in private. We do not have the tools to explain what the rift is. If we treat it as geology, it contradicts geology. If we treat it as physics, it mocks physics. If we treat it as myth, it bleeds into reality. Perhaps it is all of these at once. A wound in the earth where disciplines overlap and collapse. A place where measurement fails because measurement itself is not welcome. The closing thought. I have spent years drowning in data, parsing magnetic charts, sonar graphs, genetic sequences. Each offers a thread, but when woven together they form not a tapestry of answers, but a whole, a dark circle at the center of human understanding. Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the Abyssal Rift is not meant to be understood, only respected. For every theory proposed, wormholes, caverns, voids, there is the unspoken truth. Something waits there, watching, as patient as the ocean itself. And when the time comes, when another ship dares to press against that threshold, the rift will open again. Not out of malice, not even out of hunger, but simply because it can. Because that is what rifts do. Entry 1. 08.14 hours. The ocean closed above us like a vault door. The last rays of sunlight shimmered, fractured into ribbons, and were gone. From here on, we navigated by instruments, our eyes useless in the dim. We descended past 4,000 meters, already deeper than most submarines would dare. The hull groaned in protest, though its alloys were rated to withstand far worse. Every creak felt like a whisper in the dark, a reminder of what pressure could do to men and steel alike. Yet the deeper we sank, the stranger things became. Entry 2. 11:27. Hours. Our sonar returned clean for a while. Jagged walls, silt valleys, the topography of a place rarely seen by human eyes. Then, without warning, the signal stuttered. A gap appeared. It wasn't just an absence of return. It was negative. The algorithms translated it as missing data, a hole that swallowed pings whole. The technicians cursed and recalibrated, but nothing changed. It was as if the seafloor had opened into something bottomless. Captain Hale whispered, "That's the rift, then." His voice carried no triumph, only unease. Entry 3, 14:02 hours. We passed 8,000 meters. Outside, the water should have been an eternal night. But faint glimmers appeared. At first, we thought them bioluminescent organisms, common enough in the deep. But these lights didn't move like life. They formed patterns, faint lattices, as though outlining shapes just beyond perception. Constellations adrift beneath the sea. "Looks like a map," said one of the crew, pressing against the viewport. The lights pulsed in rhythm, and for a brief moment, every gauge in the control room spiked. Magnetic, pressure, even the chronometers. When the lights faded, so too did the readings. Entry 4, 16:45 hours. The hull sensors reported something impossible. A sudden drop in external pressure. We should have been crushed beneath 11 kilometers of ocean, yet the readings fell as though we were rising. Everyone stared at the numbers, then at each other. No one dared speak the obvious. If the pressure outside was falling, where were we? We should have been descending into water. But the sensation, hard to describe, felt like entering an emptiness. The sub didn't rattle with currents. It drifted, as if suspended in airless space. The rift was swallowing us. Entry 5, 19:10 hours. We encountered the first anomaly of life, or what resembled it. A shape drifted past, enormous, translucent, refracting the faint light from our instruments. It did not swim. It did not pulse or crawl. It simply was, as if existing independent of the medium around it. The sonar barely registered it, treating it as both solid and hollow. "God help us," murmured the helmsman. "It's like a ghost of something that never belonged here." And then, just as suddenly, it was gone. Vanished into the void, leaving only a lingering vibration in the hull, as though it had passed through us rather than around us. Entry 6, 22:54. Ours, the rift, opened wider. Our instruments showed impossible geometries. Readings that implied the seafloor beneath us folded inward, not downward, as though we hovered at the lip of a colossal funnel spiraling into infinity. Space bent visibly. One viewport showed darkness, another, just meters away, revealed distant glimmers like starlight. The crew argued over what they saw, each description contradicting the next. The captain ordered silence. "Write nothing down you're not certain of," he said, but certainty was a luxury none of us had left. Entry 7, Yo1 36. Hour's time itself unraveled. My wristwatch read Yo1 36. The wall clock said Yo5 2. The navigator's chronometer had stopped altogether. The crew's voices carried odd delays, as though sound lagged half a beat behind their lips. One man claimed he heard himself speaking before he opened his mouth. We should have been exhausted, but none felt the drag of sleep. It was as if fatigue itself had been stripped from our bodies, leaving only raw awareness. Perhaps this is how eternity feels. Not endless years, but the absence of years altogether. Entry 8, Yo4 to 22 hours. A low vibration filled the sub. Not mechanical, not external. It resonated within the bones. Some pressed their hands to their skulls, swearing they could hear words buried in the hum. I strained to listen and thought I discerned a rhythm. 4 pulses, then silence, repeated like a chant. No one dared admit it aloud, but we all recognized the pattern. It was the same frequency recorded by surface buoys in years past, the so-called Mariana Pulse. Scientists had dismissed as tectonic noise, but here, deep within the rift, it felt deliberate. Entry 9, Zoro's 59 hours. Then came the rupture, not of steel, but of perception. The rift unfurled before us, not a trench, not a wall of rock, but a wound glowing faintly, colors shifting like oil on water. It was not light, not exactly, but something that resembled memory of light, as though our minds struggled to translate the sight into sense. Through it, we glimpsed something, a horizon, a skyline of impossible architecture, angles curving inward, spires twisting against a sky of violet haze. The captain muttered a prayer, though his lips barely formed the words. No one moved, no one breathed. For a moment, humanity peered into a world not meant for it. Entry 10. Final note. The logs grow unstable now. Instruments fail, pens drag strange symbols across paper, and the lights dim without reason. If these words reach the surface, let them stand as testimony. The Mariana Trench is not the end of the earth. It is a threshold, and thresholds are meant to be crossed. But to step through is to abandon everything we know of ocean, of time, of ourselves. If we cross, we may never return. If we retreat, we may never be whole again. And so the question remains, echoing in every silence between the pulses. Which world is truly ours? Entry 1. Dado 9 Hatu 14 hours. We lingered at the edge of the rift for what felt like hours or minutes. Time no longer obeyed us. Some crew swore they saw days pass in the flicker of their eyes. Others claimed we had only just arrived. Captain Hale stood silent, his hands gripping the rail so tightly his knuckles blanched. He did not issue the order to move forward, nor to retreat. He only stared into the shifting wound in the abyss, and we, his crew, waited, trapped between terror and awe. Entry 2, 11:47 hours. The rift pulsed again. This time it did not wait for us. A surge rippled outward, unseen yet undeniable, rattling every bolt in the hull. Instruments screamed, screens blurred into static, and for a moment every light inside the sub extinguished. In the blackness, I swear we all saw it. The skyline beyond, clear as a memory etched into our very bones. Towers glistening in colors no spectrum on Earth contained. A sky torn between twilight and dawn. And then, in that silence, a choice was made. Entry 3, 13 hours. The captain's voice broke the stillness. "Turn her about." Relief washed over some faces, despair over others. No one argued. Slowly, carefully, the sub pivoted away from the impossible horizon. The rift's glow diminished in our viewports, swallowed again by abyssal dark. But the ocean was no longer the same. The currents pressed differently. The sonar spat gibberish, mapping landscapes that should not exist. A mountain ridge where the charts promised only flat trench, canyons that twisted in spirals as though the very earth had bent itself under some invisible hand. Had we left the rift behind, or had it followed us? Entry 4, 16:30. Hours. The hours stretched unnaturally. By calculations, we should have ascended halfway to the surface, yet pressure sensors insisted we still hung suspended at impossible depths. Some crew grew restless. Others whispered that the rift had taken us, that our return was only illusion. One man smashed the glass of his wristwatch, screaming that time itself had betrayed him. I tried to calm him, but inside, I feared he was right. Entry 5, 2106. Hour's contact with the surface came at last. A crackling transmission, garbled but human. The voice identified itself as command. Yet something in the tone unnerved me. It repeated phrases too perfectly as if read from memory rather than spoken. "Proceed upward. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe." 3 times the same words. We obeyed, though each of us silently wondered who or what was on the other end. Entry 6, Ijo 001. Hours. Darkness broke into light. Not sunlight, but artificial beams. We emerged into waters illuminated by floodlights from ships above. The surface was within reach. Cheers erupted, though hollow. We had returned, or so it appeared. But as I peered through the viewport, my breath caught. The ships above bore markings I did not recognize. Their designs were close to ours, yet not quite. Familiar, but distorted. And then I noticed the flags. They fluttered in the artificial breeze, symbols that resembled nations I knew, but none were exact. Had we returned home, or only to a reflection of it? Final note, found among the records. The log ends here. Whether the crew truly resurfaced, or whether their words arrived through other means, remains unsolved. What is certain is this. The Mariana Trench is not merely the planet's deepest scar, it is a wound between worlds. Perhaps one day another crew will descend, drawn by the same questions. Perhaps they already have, and their silence is the answer. And if you hear a voice calling from the depths, repeating itself too perfectly, remember, not every return means you've come home. Call to action for the audience. If this story made you shiver at the thought of what lurks beneath our oceans, you're not alone. The Mariana Trench may hold answers we're not ready for, or doors we should never open. What do you think? Did the crew return to our world, or did they slip into another reality altogether? Drop your theories in the comments. I'll be reading them all. And if you love exploring mysteries the world can't explain, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There are more secrets in the deep, and together we'll uncover them one by one, because the ocean has only begun to whisper.